Hi, second year dental students. Today we will demonstrate how to do the wax procedure for the upper left first molar tooth. As you can see, this tooth has been prepared for an inlay and it's missing the mesial side, half of the buccal side, all of the occlusal aspects, and the
mesiobuccal side.
You have been demonstrated how to use the instruments. All the armamentarium are discussed in a video that is separate, so please have a look at them if you're not sure. And now we will start by lighting up our alcohol lamp and heating the wax. So I will start by adding and building up the proximal surface in this tooth. Make sure you add your wax through very small amount of addition and not through bulk addition, as if you add through bulk it will all shrink in a wrong way and then get broken down. So as you can see, I've already built up most of the side surface, and then I will continue to building up the buccal surface. Now you know the height of contour for this tooth is within the cervical third. To make your life easier, just follow the anatomy that is already apparent on the tooth, because half of the buccal profile is there, so follow it up for a reference. All right, as you can see, what I need to check is that the mesial side does not have any
overhangs,
bulges, and the buccal profile kind of is aligned with all the height of contours that are in the tooth itself. Did not mean to say hangovers, it's called overhangs. Anyway, so I'm just like trying to make my tooth look nice, just like the natural tooth surface. Now what I need you to see here is that I need to check the side of the tooth, putting it in the jaw. I have hinged it so that I can demonstrate to you for, video purposes, but you can just work with it still attached together. So I need to just, if you look at the other side here, you can see that the contact is quite in this area. As we've discussed in the lecture, the embrasure on the buccal side is much smaller than the embrasure on the lingual side or the palatal side, and this is simply because the contact of the tooth happens a little bit more towards the buccal. So this is what we're gonna mimic by just looking at the other side and reproducing the shapes that are lost. So I'm just trying to drag my wax, wait until it's dried, and restore the contact. This is my reference. Now the tooth has touched the other one. This is not finalized, so I'll just wait until it dries up. Just as now. Now the bit that is left, I will remove it and then rebuild it again. What I need to do now is use that point as a reference to kind of build around it. But now I'll check again. I'll need to add up a little bit more wax. This is one of the most important steps. If you master the angle here, then the tooth is easy and it will be finished in no time. As you can see, I'm just adding a little bit each time to make sure that I am replicating the profile of the tooth that has been lost. Now I'll wait for it until completely dry and I'll show you the next step. So as you can see, this is after the wax has dried up. You can see that it's exactly where it should be. We will kind of give it a nice shape and form and rebuild the whole contact from underneath. I'll do that by trying to add a little bit more wax to the bulge that's supposed to be under it, and then smoothen the whole surface out, recheck again. As you can see, it's starting to look the way it should. I always use the other tooth as a reference, and I try to keep the profile within its limit, and then we start building up the cusp tip and the occlusal surface. I'll start filling up the occlusal side so that it's no longer missing a surface, and then I'll show you how to finish up the mesiobuccal cusp and the mesial side and the buccal side, so that we can have all the time to finish and finalize the occlusal anatomy in this tooth. As you can see, I'm just building up, filling up the space. Still nothing more to this tooth. I just filled up the occlusal part, which was like filling a cavity in real life. So it's very easy. Right, so now what I need to start doing is to start recreating the cusp tip, as you can see, very identical to this one, and just joining the surfaces together. Once I do that, I will check the mesial side and the buccal side. So the technique to do that is really through taking a spot and making sure it's in the right area and waiting for it to dry. And making sure that the anatomy of the buccal surface is restored as well. All right, I'm almost done with the height and the shape. I'll just show you in a minute. As you can see now, the mesial contact is restored. There's a little bit of irregularities here that I need to fix, and here that I need also to fix. However, the buccal profile looks right. It's where it should be, and it is contouring with the tooth surface the way it should. As I said, I will just redefine and readjust the surface so that I have no irregularities. All the spaces are filled up, there are no spaces, and that the wax is added to the tooth as if it is the tooth itself. After each adjustment, you need to check the side and then to check the bulges and the contours. Now, if you think you've added a little bit more wax, don't try to remove it by heat, just carve it down as you learned the carving down techniques on the soap. All right, you can see here I had added a little bit more just to show you how to carve it down. You just take your wax knife or the lacquering carver if you don't have a wax knife, and you just start removing any excess wax so that your tooth looks exactly as it should. You do not do that as the wax is still not ready or dry, I mean, but you can always carve the wax just the way you carved the soap before. Again, as you can see, I've done some carving, just removing any extras using this tool. This is an amazing tool, do not underestimate it when you're kind of finely tuning your carving to the surfaces that are mostly straight with a little bit of curvature. As you can see here, this is just like as if it's a natural tooth structure from those sides. Ignore this, we haven't worked on it yet, but the mesial contact is restored and the buccal contour is restored, and the surface of the buccal profile of the mesiobuccal cusp looks just right. Now, if you check the contact, you will see that it's there and it's good. A tiny little note that it's a little bit higher than it should, so we just have to kind of decrease it down. And this is again using the carver because you will have more control and you don't remove too much. You can control how much you're removing so that you get exactly what you need. As you can see, I've just decreased the contact so that it's kind of going harmoniously with the adjacent tooth. It's the same height and it's exactly the same location as it should be. I'm just going to brush off any extra wax. That's why I always like to have a toothbrush, because you can never get those tiny bits out without it. And if you look at this contact here, it's exactly height-wise where it should be, and buccolingually is exactly where it should be. And if you compare it to the veal side or the non-missing side, you can see that it's almost identical. Now we'll move on to the occlusal anatomy. We'll start by just heating the wax instrument, adding a little bit more, and then start carving it using the anatomical carver and the amalgam carver. All right, I like to start by just heating my instrument a bit and making the wax a little bit kind of, easy to work with. I will add a little bit to this side as I will need to rebuild the cusp tip. Remember, the anatomy of this tooth is very specific. We have an oblique ridge running from the mesiolingual cusp towards the distobuccal cusp, and we have a compartmentalization to this tooth where you have the talon part where the distal lingual cusp is kind of making a separate compartment, and then a triangle called the talon,
trigon,
and it's basically shared between the mesiobuccal, distobuccal, and mesiolingual cusp, the trigon. This is the talon, the distolingual, and the trigon is the triangle over here. And I'm starting to make it look, after adding the oblique ridge, I'm starting to recreate the transverse ridges that you see between the mesial side of this tooth and a little bit of the triangular anatomy. Now I'll need my anatomical carver to do that. In this tooth, you can see that the oblique ridge is crossed by the central fissure, and this is what we will mimic here. In many patients, you'll find them completely separated. And so if you're facing to treat the patient that is completely separated in the compartmentalization, you just mimic whatever is found in his biology. As you can see, I'm taking away any extra because there's no need to keep it. I've kind of started by a little bit of overfilling to this tooth, and now we kind of need to adjust it to where it should be. Right, this takes a lot of time, and it needs patience, and it needs understanding of what it is exactly that you're doing. If you study the anatomy of the tooth, you know exactly what you're trying to replicate. But if you don't know anything about the anatomy of it, then you probably don't know what we're at this point. As you can see, I've almost replicated my anatomy. You can see that the oblique ridge is where it should be, similar to this one. The talon on the distal lingual side is where it should be, as similar to this one. And then the trigon is kind of also looking very similar. I'm gonna finally finish this and show you the last step. All right, it's taking me something more like 5 minutes to kind of rebuild the structures. I know you still cannot see them obviously yet, but if you bring another tooth to compare, you can see the oblique ridge is restored, the transverse ridge is restored, and the anatomy on this side is also restored. Now, among the last steps to do is to kind of draw something that's similar to the central fissure. This will give your tooth a very beautiful end and give a perspective to the anatomy. So if you can see now, you've got everything restored. The tooth looks exactly like a copy of the non-messed surfaces. And if you look at the tooth in alignment, you can see the contact is perfect. It looks exactly like a copy of that one. I will now show you the next step, which is checking the occlusal surfaces. All right, so my wax is orange. I'll use the blue surface. double check both sides. And I want to see that the ink is kind of looking all similar on all sides. As you can see, there's a dark spot here. This indicates a high occlusive contact point, and we need to carve it a little bit down so that when we check again, it looks more like the forces of occlusion are distributed across the whole surface with unique, with almost the same amount of ink on the surface. I'll check again after I removed it. There's another high point here, and you keep adjusting until you get to perfection. Now, you also need to check the contact. You need to hear a tick sound, as you could see, and this is exactly to what we see on the other side. Good luck and keep practicing.